Hey guys, it's Rachel Castile, and welcome to Typology Corner. Today I'm starting a basic series on objective personality to just kind of break down some of the building blocks of it, certain things that are being tracked. And so in objective personality, saviors and demons is like a primary concept being used. What we are tracking is what functions you feel responsible for and what you kind of fear or don't put as much time into, and those would be considered the demons. They create kind of a turbulence in you in a sense because you're not putting your time there. It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel natural for you to focus on that sort of criteria, or it's kind of the missing thing in your personality that can be kind of the demon function. So a savior function is your go-to decision maker. It's your go-to observer. Everybody has a primary form of observation that they are relying on most or feel responsible for picking up on or tracking in a sense. And then they have a savior decision maker that they are filtering through that type of criteria to make a decision. And every type is choosing a specific savior observer, a specific savior decider function. And the cognitive stack of each type, they primarily have 4 that are conscious to them on some level. And out of those 4, they are choosing 2 of those as saviors. And that would be leaving the other 2 as demons. Because the functions work on an axis. So you're either choosing, one function and leaving the other one unchosen in that sense. So that's where that concept comes from saviors and demons. So something about savior functions, you feel confident at doing them. You feel confident in your ability to recognize that sort of thing, or to feel, to be responsible for, I guess the best way to say it, you're the one for the job in that area. Like you know those, if it's like extroverted feeling, you feel confident in your ability to see where everybody else is on something, and make a decision that can work, for everybody, that, accommodates everyone in a sense. Or if it's, you have introverted thinking, you're like, no, I've thought through all my personal reasons. I know where I stand on this topic, and hey, like, I feel confident in my ability to know my identity on this topic or something. Or if it's introverted sensing, it's like I feel responsible for remembering the past, remembering certain details. That is, something that's a go-to for me. That's not fuzzy for me at all. Like, I know that, I'm choosing that. The pattern I might not notice as much, you'd be leaning towards sensing over intuition, thinking over feeling. Are you more in tune with the values of something and not so much the logic, so that those terms are being applied in that sort of way, are you proving with the facts on things? Or are you more just like, hey, I recognize the pattern, and the intuition is more of a savior for you, leaving the sensing a demon? So there's a couple of things. In OBS, they talk about OPS. I do that a lot. OBS is a program I use. But in objective personality, there is peacocking and tidal waves are 2 things to talk about around saviors and demons. So it's common for people to, in their self-concept, see themselves upside down and think that, say, their intuition is really a savior for them whenever they're really a sensor dom. It's very common to, like, peacock in a sense of like, hey, I'm really good at my demons, right? Like, because whenever you're doing a demon process, you're almost proud of yourself because, it is that weaker place in you. So you really notice when you're doing it that it's like, hey, look, I'm really good at this because I do X, Y, and Z. Like a more gathering type of person realizing whenever they organize something and they're like, hey, look, I'm super orderly. I do this super, it's like taking pride in a sense of like, hey, I did this. But the whole zoomed out picture of your life, if somebody was to watch you or to film yourself, on a grander scale, that's not really how you're living in a very organized fashion. We can have swings where we over identify with when we're doing good at what we're normally totally oblivious to in that sort of sense. So watch out for that, just as you're looking to type yourself or type other people, to notice, that it's very common for us to do that, to see ourselves backwards, to think our strength is our weakness and our weakness is our strength. Because our strengths, our saviors, are kind of just happening on autopilot. We're doing them all of the time. It just comes natural to us. We don't give ourselves any credit when we do just what we naturally do in that sense. And that's why sometimes it can be easier for another person to actually discern your type better than you. Starting out, it is good to get like outside perspective to kind of see yourself more clearly, as people who are close to you see you being you all the time, where you're not thinking about being, you're just being, right? So yeah, saviors and demons are very important like concept to understand. In another way to say it, it's strengths and weaknesses. It's our chosen, I use the word addiction lightly, but it's kind of is that way. The saviors are the things that we're addicted to doing. It's the processes that we go to all of the time to make a decision. We always check in with a certain criteria. We're always factoring in a particular one of the deciders to navigate life primarily. And a certain types of observation is being prioritized and sought out. We feel responsible for it. And the demon processes are actually growth points for us to not avoid them, to not only choose what we always choose, but to notice that we could have an imbalance from the ignoring the demon processes. And there's something to be learned from it. So for sure, the saviors is the gift that comes very natural. And I don't think that should be downplayed at all. It's very good to know, hey, these are my two chosen processes. For me personally, I am an ESTP, a standard ESTP in the OPS system. And that is extroverted sensing as the chosen observer process, as a savior. And then introverted thinking, TI, as my primary decision-making function. That is my two that are pretty autopilot for me. So what else can I say? I've heard Dave and Shan use the like analogy of like lie detection as a good way to approach saviors and demons, like in tracking these things in people. Is it's seeing where our emotional spikes are. Whenever you're put in a situation that requires your demons, you can see an emotional spike. You can hear it's like a different state, like they call it the demon state, where you can tell that it's more difficult. They're speaking from a place that's causing fear. It's causing some kind of pain, or there's a bit of insecurity when using those processes, that the speech slows down, things sound a little bit different. There's more an emotional spike when using the demon processes. And it just reveals like, hey, this isn't natural for this person. They generally don't let themselves live in this sort of space, or they're in a situation that makes them uncomfortable a bit. When you take a person who has the opposite saviors, they would thrive in that situation. So it's like putting somebody where it reveals their weaknesses in a sense. It reveals what they don't like to deal with, what they avoid by using the savior functions instead. So that kind of like shows the addictions, I guess, we have to particular ways of being. And I think the fuller picture is as a whole person, we have all four of our functions, that we're not just a thinker, we're also a feeler. We're not just intuitive, we're also sensors. And within that realm, it is positive for a person to get in touch with all four of their functions and to be balanced and to see in ways they have avoided growth by engaging those areas that they generally just go, you know what, I'm gonna leave that to somebody else. I'm gonna let somebody else be responsible for that. As we can start to take responsibility for the fullness of our life, we start to live more intentional and start to build and grow, and not only making the type of circle or cycle following only our saviors. The blind spots in our life, we start to see them, we start to address them, we start to become a whole, full person that kind of covers all their bases in that sense, that they don't have too big of a void in their life. It's kind of the idea. So it's good to, I guess, for yourself to recognize what are demons, because you can approach those things differently because it's conscious now. It's not just autopilot. So that is the kind of basis of why Dave and Shan have really coined this, and I like it. It's very good for personal growth, that we don't just look at our type purely as like an excuse to be the way we're being at any given point, but to see both sides, and then to consciously decide what you want to do with seeing what you're doing currently, I guess. So yeah, that is basically everything on saviors and demons. Yeah, if you got value out of this, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for future content. I'm going to keep rolling out more videos on just these basics that make up objective personality. It's an incredible system. It really is. It addresses so many different aspects of our humanity, and it's beautiful to see it start to layer on top of itself. And yeah, it's really great. All right, guys. Well, I will see you on the next one.